Now, why do I have this? Martin Luther King. So we're talking about India for African Americans. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was African diaspora. Uh, I was watching a very interesting documentary called The Story of India. And in the very first episode, the host of the documentary goes to this tiny village in Kerala, which is the southwestern coast of India, and mentions that the very first Indians are believed to be Africans who migrated east to the to the Malabar coast, migrated east to the west coast of India to Kerala, and so that's one interesting little tidbit fact. So that and showing of African diaspora. The second has to do with the picture that's here. This is a picture of Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King at their arrival in India in 1959. Of course, you know that Martin Luther King is really famous for the civil rights movement, and if you kind of dig a little bit into your memory, you'll remember that what Martin Luther King used was the concept of nonviolence. That was what actually made the movement really work. It created a lot of contention within some of the splinter groups as well, but that's what really kind of forced the hand of the United States, was the use of nonviolent tactics. Those nonviolent tactics had been perfected by Mohandas Gandhi, also known as Mahatma Gandhi. And the terminology is called satyagraha, and ahimsa. Ahimsa actually means nonviolence, and so those were aspects or philosophical aspects that were developed by Mahatma Gandhi based on Hindu precepts. And in 1959, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference decided to go to India to meet with people like this man here. His name is Jawaharlal Nehru, and Gandhi, and another man by the last name of Jinnah are very important in the struggle for Indian independence and for kind of changing the tide against English and British imperialism in India. And remember, 1947 is when is basically when India became independent. So, and Gandhi had only been dead for about, this is 59, so Gandhi had been dead for about 11 or 12 years at this point. And so many followers of his, many people within the movement, many people who knew him well were still alive. And so African American leaders went to India in the same way that I went to India to study with a yoga teacher, or the same way that people go to find a guru, the same way that people go to India as a source of wisdom. African American leaders went to India to find out how to work with ahimsa, to work with nonviolence. Actually, Martin Luther King himself said, this is where when he landed in New Delhi, I'm here in India for a 30-day pilgrimage of India, which for me means Mahatma Gandhi. And the third little fact that I wanted to kind of bring out was about this guy. His name is Malik Ambar. Malik Ambar was an Abyssinian, which means southern Ethiopian, or also called Habshi, and he was made a slave as a young man, converted to Islam, and with his master ended up in the Deccan Plateau. So that's kind of the southern central part of India, and became a highly regarded commander of armies, and then ended up kind of taking over an army for himself, having a mercenary army for himself. And this is at the late 16th, early 17th century. And at this time, the Mughal emperors were trying to encroach further down into the Deccan, and Malik Ambar is one of the most important for establishing guerrilla warfare against the encroachment of the Mughal embassy, or the Mughal dynasty, he also is the founder of a city that's still being used in Maharashtra called Aurangabad. It was called Khadki at the time that he created it, but he did also create that city of Aurangabad. So Malik Ambar became so powerful that he ended up finding a young man who was in line for the throne, or who could be kind of machinated to be within line of the throne, and married him off to his daughter. And this is the young man here. His name is Murtaza Nizam Shah. So he married off the Murtaza Nizam Shah to his daughter, and so he became the Shah of Ahmadnagar. So Malik Ambar is an African influence in India, and there have been quite a few. So that's kind of my little thing about African diaspora in India, and we can see a kind of relevance that it may have to us, and as it is. The very last picture I have here, this is a fabulous photo of, it's probably better in this. Yeah, this is a great photo of Jahangir. This is the Emperor Jahangir, and this is the head of Malik Ambar. This is a dream. Let's go back. Yeah, what? This is a dream that Jahangir had about putting his arrow through the head of Malik Ambar. Very interesting. And he told it to his court painter, and the court painter drew this picture.